Hello, I'm Helena Gaspard. I'm the Director of Governance and Institutions at the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy at the University of Ottawa. Over the last several months, we've had the pleasure of learning from and meeting so many of you from First Nations Child and Family Services agencies across Canada. Thanks to you sharing your experiences, your expertise, and your data with us, together, we've created the first baseline costing of First Nations Child and Family Services agencies' expenditures and captured their needs. With a representative 76% of agencies participating, we can collectively be proud of what we've achieved together. Some key observations from this report include the importance of contextual factors like poverty and intergenerational trauma that impact an agency's ability to do its work. We also recognize that agency characteristics transcend provincial boundaries and funding formulas. Unsurprisingly, agency budgets are tightly correlated to the number of children in care. Given the structure of the current system, this is an unfortunate reality. We also recognize that there are some important funding gaps that exist in areas like capital, prevention programming in particular, and IT for agencies. Differences in salaries might also need a little more research and closer attention. Assuming no change in policy or funding structure, inflation and population changes alone would increase spending in the First Nations Child and Family Services program between $40 million and $140 million by 2021. We know that we can do better because we have to do better. To get to a future state, to a place where First Nations children are thriving, you told us that we have to go through children, families, and communities. This still means that safety will be an important part of the agency mandate, but that an agency's role should extend beyond safety and needs to include prevention. It needs to include a focus on family and a focus on communities, because together, that's how we create and encourage the healthier development of First Nations children. To get to a future state where First Nations children are thriving, there are some important gaps that need to be addressed. First, we use poverty in the report as a way of capturing sometimes disadvantaged or unequal contexts in which First Nations agencies have to do their work. Things like inadequate access to housing, limited or lack of access to potable water, and limited or lax in access to broadband internet matter. Beyond that, poverty can have a real impact on an agency's ability to fulfill its mandate. 44% of communities served by agencies have median household incomes below their provincial poverty line. Only raising those households to the provincial poverty line would cost roughly $205 million. Getting those households to the median household incomes of their provinces would cost roughly $2.6 billion. Beyond a different context or beyond unequal contexts, there was a loud and clear recognition from agencies that prevention funding and prevention programming matters, and it matters a great deal. The pathway to the future state runs through prevention, and prevention should target an entire community, not just children. Based on our case study analysis, a reasonable range of per person spending in a community should be somewhere between $800 and $2,500. With more prevention funding, agencies can shift the orientation of their roles from one that is protection-focused and focused on the removal of children to actually unlock the funding they need to do their work, to one that's future-looking and focused on the well-being of children, their families, and their communities. To work more intentionally in a prevention-focused way, some agencies expressed a different kind of capital requirement. Our report suggests a one-time capital investment for a facility equivalent to the size or the style of the agency's headquarters. When it comes to salaries, 62% of agencies told us that they could not remunerate their staff at salary levels comparable to those of their provinces. This signals that maybe Some more work is needed here. More work to understand why agencies can't remunerate their staff in similar ways, and certainly a greater focus on things like case complexity and case load. Finally, when it comes to IT spending, IT represents an opportunity for agencies, an opportunity to leverage data, to improve their planning by collecting data about their children and about their families and about the community that they serve. And it also represents an opportunity for increased efficiency in the way an agency operates. Our report recommends an IT investment of anywhere between 5% to 6% of an agency's total annual budget every year. IFSD makes 8 recommendations in its final report. Most important among them is the need for block funding. This means increased flexibility for agencies, accountability for agencies, and an ability to target funding where a community needs it most. There are also recommendations to increase investments in things like prevention programming, capital, and IT, all while keeping an eye on salary-related matters. Finally, IFSD recommends a data-driven agency exclusively for First Nations Child and Family Services agencies that would collect and analyze outcomes and performance-based data to support FNCFS agencies in their work. There's also a resource center that we would recommend to help agencies collaborate and share their ideas and the important work that they do. On behalf of all of us at IFSD, thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for sharing your experiences. And most importantly, thank you for your courage and your leadership. You do such important work, protecting and saving the lives of children across this country.